All right, shalom, shalom. It's your boy Yakov from the GMS Chicago branch coming at you with another lesson to the Spirit Power Bashim Shah. Before I start, start off by giving all praise and glory due to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakadash. Belongs to apostles of great millstone will. And salutations all you brethren doing this work in true sincerity with charity. All right, and I'm gonna do a add-on, a land back. All right, going in on a video. All right, that this elder brother, Itazo from the Wisconsin camp, had made. And, he's basically touching on, being on point, all right, when you're at camp, all right, whatever camps, whatever camp you're a part of, Salakia, all right, whatever, whether you be holding post, all right, or teaching, all right, you got to be on point, when you at camp, you can't be on your phone, all right, you can't be, thinking about your girl at home, so forth and so on, man. All right, you have to be present in the moment, all right, and be alert, all right, because in these last days, you got a lot of bug outs, a lot of, people who want to, put their hands on the men of the Lord, a lot of demons out here, all right. You don't want to be at camp off your square, or, definitely not drunk. No brother should be going to camp drunk or sauced or whatever, man. All right, you should be sober, all right, circumspect, diligent, right, because this is a serious business that we're doing, man. Like the brother, the elder Malcolm always say, all right, we're risking our lives and freedom, all right, when we're out there, man, all right, daily, man, all right, but especially when we out there in the elements, man, all right, so, you got to protect that brother, all right, that's next to you, all right, so we all have to be on point, when it comes to, making sure, Jake is straight, at camp, man. All right, like I said, holding posts, all right, is a serious thing, man. Because you basically, that first line of defense, you the eyes and the ears, all right, making sure nobody comes in the vicinity or get close, to the brothers, all right, and the person that's speaking, right? So when you hold posts, you got to take that duty very serious, man. All right, can't be letting nobody sneak up behind Jake or get too close, right? Because we don't know what these people got going on, man. All right, we don't know what these people thinking. All right, these people can like the brother was saying, act like they fake drunk. All right, because it's been scenarios, it's happened before, all right, with different camps, so it's being made known, all right, that when you at camp, make sure you're on point, man, being circumspect and making sure you're taking that duty that you're doing very serious. Holding post ain't just you standing there twiddling your thumbs thinking about what you're gonna eat that night, You gotta make sure you're on point, man. All right, listening to the speaker as well, all right, and surveying, man, all right. With that being said, this is Ephesians 5:15. It says, "See then that you walk circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise." All right. It says, "Redeeming the time because the days are evil." Right. So, not only in our day-to-day life, of course, all right, we have to walk circumspectly. All right, walk wise. All right, in our everyday life, but even at camp, more so. All right, because with the words that's being brought out, man. All right, these words ruffle people's feathers, man. All right, as in the scriptures, as an example. All right, in the gospel, all right, where they were speaking, all right, and they incited a riot, man. Right. So a lot of people out here, they don't like to hear, all right, these words, and we know why, because as scripture says, hey, these are evil, man. All right, this word is a two-edged sword, right? So people get offended very easily with what we're doing. So we have to be very, circumspect and dealing, with these different spirits, man. All right, and holding post is a measure, all right, to keep things at bay. So you could, see you the first line of defense. Like I said, you got to be able to see, all right, when somebody is, coming up on BS, all right, and be able to, act accordingly, man. All right, but if you ain't paying attention, all right, somebody can easily slide, get to a brother, slide in, all right, get behind you, right? You on your phone, looking down, right? So forth and so on. You know, these things, all right, becomes a kink, you know, as they say, in your armor, man. All right. So we have to be on point, man. You know, and that's the sentiment that the brother was getting into. All right, this 1 Corinthians 14:40 says, "Let all things be done decently and in order." So we have to make sure that we're in order when we're out there, man. All right, you know, like I said, man, being on point. You know, just taking not taking that job lightly, man. All right, not taking it as a, you know, a way to, you know, just chill. All right, because you're not chilling. You know, it's like I said, that first line of defense, man. All right, this is 1 Peter 5:8. It says, "Be sober, be vigilant." It says, "Because your adversary, the devil, is a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour." All right, so we have to be sober and vigilant. Right, you know, making sure we're constantly, you know, being on point, man. All right, you know, paying attention, being circumspect. All right, you know, because like I said, man, you're protecting, all right, the brother next to you, man. All right, so forth on and so forth on. Right, everybody at camp should be on point, man. Right, but you know, especially if you holding post, man. You know, and go watch that brother video. You know, it was on point. You know, and I just want to, you know, make a quick little land back off that through the spirit. But yeah, with that, you know, Lord willing, you know, brothers, you know, was edified. I'm end all by giving all praise, honor, glory due to Yahweh, Bashim, Yahweh Shai, Bashim, Rakadash, of line said positive, great millstar, will. And salutations, are you brethren doing this work in true sincerity, charity? So next time, shalom, and a Bible ball.